So SEO is supposed to be making you money and generating a ton of cash for your business long term. But what if a few mistakes were quietly costing you thousands of dollars in revenue? So today I'm going to break down the top 3 most common mistakes I see businesses make, why they happen, and how you can fix them. So if you're new to the show, my name's Josiah Roche, and I've helped my clients generate millions of dollars using SEO techniques. And SEO isn't just about getting traffic, it's making sure that traffic actually converts into sales. So today I'm going to dive into those 3 mistakes and get right into it. So number 1 is chasing the wrong keywords without a clear strategy. So a lot of businesses are focusing on like broad informational keywords that bring visitors but don't actually convert into sales. So I was working with this client in the yoga space and they're ranking for keywords like what is yoga and how to meditate, and you get the whole idea, right? So the issue here was none of the traffic was actually converting into sales, even though they were getting a lot of traffic. So the thing is, people searching for these terms were gathering information and not ready to buy right now. And so this all boils down to user intent, right? People are searching for these terms, they're in the awareness stage, and so they're not ready to buy right now, which means you're getting traffic but not conversions. How do you fix this? So you need to target commercial keywords. That's the jargony term of what we call it. Actually, the jargon term is called money page, but for the purposes of keeping it simple, let's try to stick to commercial intent keywords. And that's when people are typing in terms into Google and it seems like they're ready to buy something. So what I mean by that, instead of targeting keywords like what is yoga, you go for more terms like buy premium yoga mats or best yoga mats for like sweaty hands or something, because the intent of that keyword is much stronger that you could guess that person is ready to buy. And so that's where intent comes in. You try to figure out what is information intent, like someone researching, versus someone who is ready to buy, which is commercial intent. And so it's not enough to just switch to transactional keywords. You still need those informational terms so that you can prop up your authority. And so an easy way to illustrate this is what we call a topical authority map. So you can build what's called a topical authority map, kind of like a whiteboard. And basically you map out all the pages you have, and you create these little clusters of related content that shows Google that you're an expert in that particular topic. Right? For yoga mats, you'd probably be creating supporting content around best yoga mats for travel or how to choose the right yoga mat. So these might be different blog posts that you've got that support your commercial page. So if you've got a commercial page selling yoga mats, then you can have, a blog post saying, best yoga mats for travel or how to choose the right yoga mat, stuff like that. Okay, so when you've got a topical authority map, you kind of create these clusters, put it on a whiteboard, do whatever makes sense in your mind to do. It might be a mind map or whatever. You've got all the pages together and you've selected one keyword that each page is going to kind of focus on. You've got that. And now the next step, once you've got that all organized, is you have all of this linked together and what we call internal linking, right? So basically, you've got to link your blog posts back to your product pages to guide people between those pages in the process of buying. But sure, if you think about it, when you're linking between these pages, you're like, oh, wow, that's an opportunity for us to upsell this product, right? So that's one aspect of looking at it. But the other aspect, or the invisible aspect, is that you're actually training Google bots on the relationships between your pages. So if you have a cluster around the topic yoga mat, and you've got a commercial page, which is your main money page that you're trying to point people to, and then you've got supporting blog articles around that, all pointing to that commercial page, it tells Google that this commercial page has to rank for, a commercial type of keyword. So if you've designated the keyword for, buy premium yoga mats, inside of the blog post that you've got, the supporting blog posts, you would have the keyword in there, buy premium yoga mats, or when you're considering to buy a premium yoga mat, something like that, then they would link to the commercial page you have so that you're training Google bots to understand the relationship of what that page is about, and what people can expect, what's the intent behind it. And so it just gives it an extra signal to Google to prop up your SEO rankings. If you could imagine that commercial page of buy premium yoga mats was a product page and it's in the middle and that's your main money page, and then you come up with this cluster of all these supporting pages that link to there, it's beneficial, not like ideal in terms of linking to everyone, but you could link your product page also to those pages, right? And you can link those pages between each other as well. And it creates this spider web. If you imagine that all these pages are intermingled together, so that you're forcing Google to see the relationship between all these things and telling them that they're all related. So it props up all of those pages for SEO. So that's kind of how topical authority works. So as a key takeaway, focus on commercial intent keywords and build a topical authority map. So you need to do this, and then you start with internal linking to map it all together. This way, you're not just driving traffic, which you will, but you're driving conversions, okay? So mistake number 2 is what we call keyword cannibalisation. And this is a huge thing in the SEO world and Google Ads as well. But what happens is businesses are often stuffing way too many keywords into their content, which leads to keyword cannibalisation. And what that means is when multiple pages or many of your pages are competing for the same keyword, hence confusing Google algorithms, right? So I had a client in the health space, and we had multiple clients targeting the same kind of keywords around like best protein powder. And instead of one page ranking well, all of them performed kind of poorly because they're all competing against each other. And in some cases, we found that some of their best pages were competing against each other and ranking well, but it wasn't the pages that the client wanted to rank, right? They had this one particular page that they want to rank, but you had 2 other pages ranking for that term as well, because they weren't structuring their information properly on the page. So again, this causes decision fatigue, and when Google sees a lot of similar pages that are ranking together, it doesn't know which one to rank, right? And so you're kind of getting less rankings as a result, right? And so to fix this, you need to start running a site audit using something like Screaming Frog or Ahrefs to see which pages are competing for the same kind of cluster of keywords. And then once you've spotted the problem, you can consolidate, restructure, change your keyword targets for each of the pages, and build them on that topical authority map that I told you about. So the idea here is, after you've fixed the cannibalization, you've kind of like selected a focus keyword for each of them, you can then work on your content structure on the page, right? Your on-page SEO. So you can use clear headlines like H1 tags, H2 tags, things like that. If you don't know what those are, you can look them up. They're very easy to understand. And you can incorporate LSI keywords, so latent semantic indexing keywords, which just means if you've got the focus keyword for buy premium yoga mat, in that search listing for that particular keyword, there's at least 10 competitors showing on the first page, right? So between those competitors, Google is going to see and scan all the words on all those top competitor pages, and then see what kind of words those pages use similarly to each other. Like, what is the pattern there? And Google is just trying to see a pattern of words. And so it then detects that they use all similar words to each other, similar phrases, similar industry jargon, etc. And basically it's your job to use something like Surfer SEO or Neuron Writer to see what these words are, so that you can inject them into your page, so that Google starts to see that you're more relevant to that focus keyword that we spoke about, and therefore your rankings go up. I know it sounds pretty confusing, like there's a lot to like remember and understand, but basically that's all that's there to do with on-page SEO. You have to fix all that kind of stuff, fix the words on your page. It's got to have similar word counts to your competitors, otherwise it looks like an outlier. Yeah, just making sure that you're designating one focus keyword per page and not just trying to rank for all keywords under the sun for every single page that you have, and then you're confusing the heck out of Google, and then Google, basically penalizes you and you have less rankings across the board. Yeah. So that's where internal linking also plays a big part here, because you've already organized your focus keyword and all that kind of stuff. Internal linking is probably one of the most important levers for your on-page SEO and your SEO in general, so that you can educate Google bots when they're crawling your website to make sure that they understand the relationship between your pages and what each page means and what it's trying to rank for, etc. So you need to link your supporting content to your core product or service pages to signal to Google which pages are most important. So number 3, let's get into it, is not tracking or adjusting your SEO strategy, which is a huge thing. So many businesses out there actually don't know how and don't actually track their SEO performance properly. Okay, so they look at traffic but don't know which pages are actually converting into sales. You'd argue that, okay, well, you can track all that inside of Google Analytics, and you can, but to the most business owners out there don't know how to do it, don't know how to use Google Tag Manager. So I have a few recommendations on different tracking tools that you can use. But the main issue is if you're not tracking conversions, you're missing out on valuable data that can make a huge impact on your revenue. So we see this all the time where we're totally shocked that a blog post actually drove like 5 booked appointments this month. It's like, holy crap, we would have never have guessed that. And so you can actually drive more traffic by running ads to that blog post. And the thing is, with top of funnel kind of informational based keywords or blog posts, it's usually cheaper cost per click than, some commercial page where someone's saying, dental clinic near me, for example. And so if you knew that a particular blog does actually get you revenue or drive sales, then why not run more traffic to it? Intercept people who are looking to buy right now, are in informational search mode, and you already have a page that's proven to convert those people into a booked appointment or sale, then run traffic to it. It gives you really great details. But that's not what I'm getting into. We're just sticking in SEO today. So to put this in perspective, I had an e-commerce client and they're driving a lot of traffic to their website, and they had no idea which pages were actually converting aside for their main product pages, right? They just knew that more units were getting sold here and there, but they didn't know that, which landing page people were coming in from, that user journey. They were tracking the traffic, but they weren't focusing on what was actually the money makers in their business that was leading up to that journey. So I guess this taps into what we call the endowment effect. And it's when we overvalue what we already have, in this case, traffic, and we underestimate what we could gain, which is conversions in this case. So just because a page gets traffic doesn't mean it's making you any money, right? And so how do you actually fix this? In this case, this client, they're getting a lot of traffic, same old story, they weren't, converting into sales. And so they need to set up their conversion tracking properly. So we use tools like Google Analytics, what I mentioned before, but one of the special tools I use for this to make it easy without using Google Tag Manager is a tool called What Converts. Now, there are other tools out there. You can use Hyros, you can use Triple Whale and things like that, but I recommend my clients to use What Converts because it helps track the entire user journey of what the customer went through. Right? So from the search term they used to all the way to the sale. And it's really helpful for multi-level attribution where you get to see, did they come from a blog post? Did they come from Reddit? Did they come from a Google ad? Where did they come from? In that case, like SEO, I shouldn't have said blog post, but you get the idea, right? So when we set up the conversion tracking for that e-commerce client, we found out which pages were actually converting and optimized the ones that weren't performing. Optimizing what words we said on there, what images we used, the headlines, all that kind of stuff, so that we can either improve the conversion rate and also send more traffic to the pages and put more budget on what was actually working. So once you have conversion data, then you can adjust your SEO strategy based on what's working. So you can focus on more traffic to your high converting pages, improve on pages that, the content that's not performing well. And you can also get ideas on creating new pages based on the pages that are working. You might have really solid pages on like top X, yoga mats to try in 2024. And you're like, wow, okay, that's actually making us pretty good money. Let's make other posts that are similar to that, like top or best or comparison type of pages, all that kind of stuff. But the main takeaway here is don't just track traffic, track the conversions. I hope this wasn't too much, but let's recap on the biggest mistakes, or these three that are quietly costing you thousands of dollars every single month. So number one, we spoke about wrong keywords. So focusing on commercial intent pages and building what we call a topical authority map. So you need to use internal links to guide traffic to the products and pages and services and all that kind of stuff, but also to educate Google bots and search engine bots the relationship between those pages. Okay, so we spoke about that. We spoke about on-page SEO, so avoiding keyword cannibalisation, making sure that each page has a clear focus, and yes, this does overlap with the first mistake. Structure your content with proper headings, compress all your images, making sure you've got alt text on your, and we didn't speak about that, I've spoken about that before, but there's so many things you can do for your on-page SEO. Go check out tutorials online. I've got a few as well. And then use internal linking. Again, internal linking is so underrated, but so important. Okay, number three, we spoke about tracking. So don't just track your traffic, track your conversions. So use that data to actually adjust your strategy as you go. But the biggest takeaway is just remember, SEO isn't just about driving traffic. And it's the whole reason why us as business owners, because I am one as well, that you want to make sure you're turning traffic that goes that actually makes money in the bank, right? So all that traffic turns into revenue. So if you can avoid these 3 mistakes I've mentioned, you'll not only improve your rankings, but you'll see a real boost in your bottom line. So I hope that was helpful. If you learned a lot from this video, please subscribe. I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.